In our last video, we spoke about how we can train lumbar flexion, specifically to the deadlift. Today, we'll be going quite the opposite. So we're going to be looking at how to train extension around the deadlift as well. So in deadlifts, for sumo and conventional, we want to be able to have enough lumbar extension to put us in a really nice position to be able to produce force. Chris is going to demonstrate what a nice amount of lumbar extension will look like in a sumo position. There are two different ways we can typically look at a sumo position, whereas the first one is, I guess, a little bit more extended through the lumbar and a little bit more hingy, where Chris is going to show you what that looks like. As you can see, his torso is a little bit more over the bar, and he's getting a little bit more hinge at the hips, which in theory will give you a little bit more lumbar extension, okay? The other way around is we can have a little bit more tuck and a little bit more flexion through the lumbar erectors, okay? This position here, Chris is going to be a little bit more upright, and it's going to have a little bit less demand on the lumbar extensors here into extension, okay? Sweet.
So like Josh was saying, we have two ways we can lean into biases for our deadlift. One being a little bit more flexed or rounded with our lower back, and one being a little bit more extended. So we can also look at changing our foot pressure depending on where we are in these positions. So for the more rounded lower back position, we're going to be tending to move back towards our heels. But for the sake of today, we're going to talk more about our toe pressure and staying a little bit more extended. Chris is a really good example of this. So when he gets into position, Chris really puts his pressure onto his toes, and he holds that as he comes down to the bar. And then as he's wedging into the barbell, he's driving his foot pressure down through his toes as hard as possible, maintaining that all the way up into the full lockout at the top. So if we want to get better at this forefoot position, there's a few accessories we can use to try and practice this. So the first one we're going to do today is a front foot elevated split squat. But we're going to be doing this in a calf raise position or a tippy toe position. So I'm going to walk Chris through it now. So all you need is like a small block or box or a plate, and you're going to be putting that underneath your front foot. So Chris steps up onto the plate, and then he takes his back leg and goes back into his normal length split squat position. He's then going to move that front foot up into a tippy toe position. So he's going to contract his calf and just float up in that kind of top position there. He's going to hold that for the entire duration of the set. He's then just going to drop up and down through the split squat, focusing on pushing through that forefoot. So the entire time he's trying not to let his heel drop, he's just keeping the pressure in the front of his foot for the split squat.
As Tom was saying before, that split squat variation can help someone push through with their toes a little bit more. Another accessory we can do is a foam roller hip thrust. So what Chris is going to do is going to lay on the ground, he's going to have the foam roller up against a wall or something secure. He's going to have his toes up on the foam roller itself, almost in that calf raise position like he was in that split squat as well. Okay. From here, all Chris is going to think about is pushing through the front of his foot, closer to the toes, and thrusting his hips up into the air. Really feeling a nice contraction through the quad, the calf, as well as a little bit of the glute as well. So there are a couple accessories that you can do throughout your program to help you hold a little bit more lumbar extension. It's going to help you build a little bit more muscle mass in the areas that you need to hold that lumbar extension. Give them a go.